business entrepreneurship goes a long way, even for my great-great-grandfather. I feel like it's been embedded into us somehow. My grandfather told us, like, I didn't bring you all the way to America just for you guys to have this good life. You're gonna build something for our people here, and you're gonna send money back home. And then after you're done doing that, when Palestine's free, you're going back home. There's no purpose to be here if home is free. So really, my goal in life is to go back home. I wanna live in Palestine. I'm ready to go back home at any time.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. All about humanity, so this right here for everyone. Uplift, amplify, empower everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud.
Visit sumudpod.com to subscribe and connect with us on social media. Consider supporting our work through a contribution on the Support Us page.
On this episode of the Sumud Podcast, we uplift, empower, and amplify Aminah Musa. Aminah is one of the forces behind PaliRoots, a brand born of resistance and stitched with purpose. Raised in a working-class Palestinian home, she uses fashion as a tool for resistance and education. Behind every stitch is a story, and through each one, she makes sure Palestine is never ignored, erased, or forgotten. Welcome, Aminah.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Finally, we made it happen. Finally.
I know. I'm sorry. It's been a while, but I'm so honored to be on this podcast. I've heard amazing things about your podcast and the stories that you've been able to pull from people. So I wonder what you're going to pull from me today.
Well, first things first, rumor has it that you were born at a wedding in Jerusalem.
Who said that? I'm going to just start telling people that I was born at a wedding, but the true story is my mom went back home to Palestine to witness her brother's wedding in Palestine. She happened to be 8 months pregnant, and I came into the world in the most beautiful land on earth. So I'm honored to be from there. So yes, I was born at a wedding in Palestine.
But not literally at a wedding, right? Yeah.
Not literally. That would have been a great story, though. What was happening outside of the house was really intense, like gunshots and people running. And so it was a little bit intense for my mom. So God bless her for going through that.
So you were there for only, a few weeks after you were born?
Yeah, a few weeks. I was a newborn and I went back to Chicago, which is my hometown.
Hometown in Chicago. Your mother is Spanish Palestinian and your dad is Palestinian, but raised in Puerto Rico?
Exactly. We're born and raised in Puerto Rico. So we have a lot of Spanish influence in our family, especially with our food and our language. We all speak Spanish, Arabic, and English all at the same time.
Do you speak Spanish fluently?
I would say I'm going to start taking the title of I can speak Spanish pretty fluently. Like I've been practicing quite a bit. I've been traveling to a lot of Latin countries, especially the countries that my grandfather migrated to when he was coming to see new opportunities. He ended up in Peru, Colombia, and Puerto Rico. So visiting his lineage as a 15-year-old leaving Palestine and then trying to bring something back home to his family, I decided to go see what it was and be inspired by that. But it is very similar to the Palestinian culture, which is why I connect so much to the Latin Americas too.
You're going to add any Spanish maybe to some of the PaliRoots gear?
I did actually.
Did you?
I had a shirt that says Viva Viva Palestina. And it got all of the Latin community super excited. So that one, till this day, I get requests to bring it back. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But maybe I would love to do like a fusion, but definitely something like inspired by football. I think that's two really big connections, Palestine and football. And I think a lot of like UCFC Palestina down in Chile. So it'd be really cool to do something around that. Yeah. We dropped jerseys, but I think expanding on that is really the goal for next year.
Do you let people put their names on the jerseys? Or not yet?
You could do whatever you want. We don't do it, but if you buy a jersey and you want to do it, like that would be really cool. I'd probably do the same thing. But maybe that's a good idea to see if we can add some customization to the brand as well.
I come up with one good idea a week. So there you go.
There you go. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. So what's interesting about you when people are watching you on social media or seeing the work that you're doing with PaliRoots, a lot of people think, oh, wow, she's privileged and this was handed to her and she's doing these big things. They have no idea of your story of growing up essentially on food stamps. Is that correct?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of Palestinians that I grew up with also had that similar experience where you kind of come to America to get a better life. And it's a tough life, especially in Southside Chicago. I don't know if anybody has been there, but it's not necessarily the safest or the best area of Chicago. But I grew up there as a kid. And honestly, I feel so blessed to have been raised by two very humble parents who taught me a lot of the values that I know today. I feel like that experience shaped me who I am today. And had it been different, where I did live a very privileged life at an early age, I don't know if I would be the same. So I'm just grateful for exactly the way that my life planned out growing up on food stamps.
Yeah. And your dad was in medical school, correct? At that time?
Yeah. Yeah, back in the day, they would get married so young, and they would have kids so young. I mean, my mom had her fifth child, my youngest brother, at the age of 30. And I'm 30 right now with no kids. So, I can imagine like my dad went to medical school as I think he was like 20 years old. And, my dad has this thing where he can't be away from his children and his family. So he actually took us to the medical school that he went to in Ceiba in Belize. So we grew up on the island for maybe a year or two as kids while my dad was going to medical school. We were the only three kids on that island during the time he was in medical school.
Wow. That's an
Yeah.
amazing story. You got to think about putting out a book at some point of your journey.
You think so? I think my dad's book would be a little bit more interesting. My dad's gone through it all, I'm more inspired through him. I live through his stories, honestly.
Okay. So we'll have him on the podcast.
Yeah, well, oh, definitely. He's an amazing person to have on. He's just a little shy.
All good. When you were growing up, obviously you didn't have a lot of money. You were getting school lunches. They were providing it to you. Did you know that your family was struggling?
No idea. My dad made it seem like he had everything under control. And he did a really great job, like trying to get us the best of what we asked for. But, as kids, we didn't really ask for much besides like watching cartoons in the morning or maybe going to like the park. We were really outdoors kids. So the thing that we really requested the most was to open the fire hydrant so we could play in the water. I don't know if anybody's had that experience.
Yeah.
But it's a core memory being a kid. The simplest things makes you happy. And I feel like nowadays I don't see kids out on the street. And it throws me off a little bit because I remember growing up playing in the street and playing in the backyard, playing Dorna. I don't know if you've played that before, but we would play like house and we would make meals out of mud pies and stuff just to kind of experience, what's it like to be a grown up. But then when you're a grown up, you're like, what? I don't want to be here. So yeah, I feel like my parents did a really great job giving us the world, even if they didn't have that much.
Yeah. So you grew up in South Side of Chicago and then you moved to Ohio later. Is that correct?
Yeah, I moved to Ohio. My dad did his residency rotation in Ohio, and we spent a good 7 years there. And it was really beautiful. I loved Ohio. It's still a piece of home for me. So when someone says where you grew up, I'm like, I don't know, Chicago, Ohio. Like I'm a Midwest girl. Like I feel like it's the best thing being from the Midwest. I feel like you learn a lot about community and you find those one-off groups, you connect with them. Especially like I feel like the Muslim community and the Palestinian communities are really strong in Palestine and Ohio. So it was nice to kind of get a piece of home being away from home.
Yeah, but South Side of Chicago to Ohio, those are two different world. How did you navigate that?
I think I had my siblings, and I think that was enough for me. My best friends are my siblings, and that's why, I run PaliRoots with my brother, Hasan. I think my parents moving us around a lot from the Caribbean to Chicago to Ohio, and then now California. It's like the only friends we did have that were long were our siblings. So we really learned how to, befriend one another and know how to speak with one another. My dad had really strict rules about fighting with one another. He was like, before you sleep, you hug each other at night, even if there's something going on. So if he finds out we're sleeping and he knew we had a fight, he'd wake us up like, did you guys like make your peace? And if the answer was no, he would wake us up until 4 a.m. to fix it. So I think that really helped us. And especially in our adult life, if there's something going on, we would talk about it and come to a conclusion before we sleep. Because the idea was like, you don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. We sleep thinking we're going to see tomorrow and we just never know. And the last thing you want is to not be on good terms with somebody. So my dad really, both my mom and my dad taught us about that. And I think it instilled a lot of love for one another in our family. So I never felt like there was a big shift because I had everyone that I needed. And that was my parents and my siblings with us.
Right on. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to try that with my twin daughters.
Yeah, you got to do that. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You're obviously in Ohio, I'm assuming majority white, Palestinian, Spanish. Did you have any confusion with regards to your identity and who you were?
Yeah. I think every Palestinian has, especially your Palestinian diaspora in the States. You just kind of like want to fit in so desperately, so you would mask your identity. For me, I didn't mind standing out so much. I mean, I wore the hijab in middle school and in high school, and it was so beautiful to be able to represent my Muslim Palestinian roots in high school. And I felt like it really helped me understand true friendship because I wasn't necessarily the most popular or most loved person in school because I was the only Muslim Arab girl. And it's not just Muslim Arab girl visible, like, no, actually, the only one in that high school. I feel like it allowed me to kind of find friends and people who didn't look for looks or the differences, but looked for just like what's in the heart. And I felt like most of my friends were kids in the special ed program. Like, those were my friends. Like, I would bake cookies with them in the morning and like see them in the hallways and give them big hugs. It allowed me to stay focused on my school too. I tried to fit in by doing soccer for 4 years. I was horrible at it, but I wanted to make my dad proud to at least have one kid that was sporty. Ended up being me. It was miserable, but it was just really difficult, honestly, being the only Muslim Arab girl in a school that was all white. And I think there was probably only one African American student out of all the classes. So you can just see like how majority white it was. But I never felt like I needed to really fit into their culture. I was okay with wearing a hijab. I was okay with being Palestinian and speaking Arabic and even making projects around my identity. And I think that's because my mom and my dad, they forced us to learn how to do debka at a young age. They would only play Palestinian music or music that was played within Palestine, whether it was Egyptian, Syrian, Lebanese. Like, we were always rooted into our culture. And we had a strong Muslim community in Ohio as well, where like our actual friends were like kids from the Islamic school that we go to on Saturdays. It's not a love or hate. I just think it's a good part of my experience, but nothing that I feel like put a big dent on me trying to mask or straighten my hair or be a certain way. And being bullied here and there, especially during 9/11, wasn't so fun. History classes, I was always a troublemaker because when we would talk on the top subject of Israel and Palestine, it was like, this is my moment to shine, you know? Let me educate you guys. But it was really difficult because I don't think anyone cared at that point, nor did they know what Palestine was. So it was a little challenging and frustrating to get people to understand like where you come from and what are our people actually like, because that wasn't in books. That was never taught to the average student there.
So when you say bullying, can you be more specific? Were they just hurling negative things at you, or?
Yeah, just negative things. I think one of the times my locker was in a spot where it was a majority of like the varsity football students. And, like when you're a young boy, you would just mess around and it's always like, oh, I dare you to do this, or they would push a football player to force me into my locker. And I identify that as bullying. I just don't think that's kind to be doing that. And as much as I tried to request my locker to be moved, just the school system never did anything about moving my locker because I felt like it came to a point where I didn't feel comfortable being there. I think it's more so like people chose actively not to want to be friends with me because I was different. So a lot of the times I was eating lunch at the art room by myself. I got really great at art though, which is why I'm here today. It's like I fell in love with art because I would actually be friends with the teachers there. Like my bio teacher and my art teacher, like those were the companions that I had during high school. So lunchtime wasn't really the time that I would hang out with anybody. I would just pack my za'atar sandwich, and just go to my art class and have lunch with my art teachers.
Have you connected with your art teacher at all?
You know what? I haven't in a while. That's a great
I
idea for me to
I would
do that.
show up and say, "Look at me now."
Yeah, she might be like, "Who are you?" Because from the time, there's a glow up stage. When we were back in the days, we were wearing our hijabs with like 5 different layers and then the scarf.
Yeah,
So I'd have to probably show up in that for her to recognize me.
I hear you. And that experience of being bullied and growing up in this mostly white area, how did that impact how you treat people today? Because just some of the research is you're just so kind to everyone you speak to,
Mm,
including the people that you work with. You treat them like a family.
yeah.
Because a lot of people go the other way, right? They're angry and they're mad and they start to go in a negative direction. But it seems like you took it in a different way.
I can't give myself credit to that. I think only Allah, like God put that in me. And I feel like I always ask myself, like, why am I this patient? Why do I forgive so easily? Why am I too nice of a person? Because I'd always be like, Aminah, you're too nice. You need to be just a little bit more mean. It's physically difficult for me to do that. Like, I don't know how to do that. If I feel like I'm around someone who is maybe giving me this type of feeling, then I actively choose to kind of put some space between them very kindly, very peacefully without them knowing, just because I don't want them to feel like there's someone that feels this type of way towards someone. And I feel like that experience being in Ohio and being very self-conscious about myself has allowed me to have a lot of empathy for others who maybe feel the same. So I never wanted to be someone who like was a cause of somebody's uncertainty or hurt, or like trying to identify as what they portray in this world. I'm like, I accept you as you are, and that's as easy as it needs to be. I think we complicate things by having too many strict things on what we believe in. And I think we just live in a world where it's like, God gave us free will. So let them have their free will. Like, who am I to come in and judge? And I think freely removing myself from the idea of judgment has made me someone who's just this type of person that I am today. So I owe it to Allah, honestly. It's not even me. I was just born in a way where I'd see things differently. And I think my dad too, he'd always tell us like, reflect before you say anything, before you do anything, reflect. He would say reflect for like 6 years in a row. Be like, please, like just one day, say something else. But he'd always taught us the idea of like, you got to reflect before you say something, you do something, because there's always a reaction to an action. So just think about what you're going to do. And I think me having friends, especially in the special eds of high school, they were just like the most beautiful people. Like, I felt so connected to them, so loved. Like, they lived so much in the present. I was jealous of that. I wanted to live in a very present state of mind. And I think they just allowed me to be more empathetic and compassionate with other people. So I've actually learned a lot from my experience in high school, spending a lot of time with them as well.
When you all started to do more social media, if I read correctly, I think even your dad told you all, hey, be careful. There may be people out there that don't have what you have. You don't want to appear that you're flaunting. You don't want people to be jealous or feel less than you. I
Yeah.
mean, your dad put this in your mind early on. That's just amazing.
Oh, that's very important. My dad never said he's going to take it from you. God's going to take, he never portrayed God to be in that way. He says God loves those that are humble. God loves those who feel for other people. So for us, when he did eventually launch his business and it allowed him to not have to be a doctor, he actually quit being a doctor right after residency. He's like, I'm done with residency because I haven't seen you guys in 3 weeks and I'm falling into this hole of being depressed and I need to fix this. So he started building his own company, Match Resident. And the moment he launched, it took off because it was something that people needed and it didn't exist. So he solved the problem in the world of medical students trying to find residency in the States. He was like, let me find a way to simplify it for them and to save them money because they've already spent so much money. So as a doctor himself and as a student himself, he created a solution for students and students loved it. They connected a lot with it. So that took off and then our whole life changed. I mean, we moved to California. We finally had, the ability to spend. And it wasn't like spending on crazy luxurious things, but we were able to get like a nicer car and not just like a minivan that was beat up for like the oldest model that they had at a junkyard. Like, we actually were able to afford nice things. And from there, my dad's like, great, I'm happy that I'm able to give you guys this life. Don't ever share it. And the reason why he told us never to share it is that there are people in the world who will either be envious of you or be inspired of you. Always choose inspiration. You want to inspire people, and you don't inspire people by what you have. You inspire people by how you think. So I think that was the reason why we really don't share what was given to us. Because at the end of the day, even though we worked for it, it wasn't really something that was given to us. It was kind of blessed to us. So we can't take credit for what we have because at the end of the day, it's all written and it's all maktub. Like, God knows what he's going to give you and what he'll take from you. So at the end of the day, it's like the only thing you have is your soul. So that's my mom and my dad. They're very aligned in the way that they raised us. But a lot of it was just like my dad being like, reflect. He was the one that was like always like this. My mom's like, make sure you go pray to Allah and be grateful, So we had like this type of family dynamic within us, and it allowed us to be the people that we are today. So honestly, I owe it all to my mom and my dad. They're my rocks and my best friends.
So what was his company's name?
Match a Resident.
Match a Resident. So you're telling me he put himself through medical school and he did a complete pivot and started his own business. It answers my question, where did you and your brother get it from?
Yeah,
right?
the entrepreneurship.
Y- Yep.
Yeah, we got it from my dad. Yeah, my dad is the reason why we were given this choice of, hey, like you should go into entrepreneurship. I think you guys can do it. Come with an idea. And it's really interesting the way that my dad went about it. And I never really like to say this when I will publicly speak on a university stage because I don't want to discourage any of the students from like not going to college, but I don't want them to rely on university to lead them. Only they can lead where they want to go. And if university is the way that they feel like they will be led, then by all means. But my dad told us, like, I don't think the system is built for you guys. And if the system was built in a way where I think it's going to benefit you, then I would tell you go to college. So my dad actually told us not to go to college. He was like, I can help you. I'm your teacher.
When he said not built for you guys, did he mean as his kids or as Palestinians or?
I think just as his kids in general, I think him being a student and what he went through, he was just like, I just don't think this is something that's going to lead my kids in a way where I feel confident that they're going to be able to launch a business. I think everything that they need to know, they can learn from the person who's gone through it all. So we learned a lot from my dad in terms of business entrepreneurship. And it's funny because now he's learning a lot from us. We've learned like from the past and to the present. And then now he's like, okay, what are you guys doing now? Like, because business changes, it moves. There's marketing and the marketing changes in all sorts of ways. So we really do like work together as a family. Even my sister owns her own pottery school studio called Clayat in San Diego. So if you ever want to go and throw a piece for your loved one, she's an amazing instructor and student. So he always gave us this opportunity of like, what are your ideas? What do you want? If we don't have an idea, we don't know what we want, he's like, you're going to school. Because you can't just sit around trying to figure out what you want. You got to go to school, get experience, maybe meet somebody. Maybe you'll find your business partner. Maybe you'll find your husband and your wife. Like, I don't know. But if you don't know what you're doing by the time you leave high school, then you need to figure it out. So for me, when I left high school, I knew I wanted to be a designer. I know I wanted to be somewhere in the art field. So he was just like, where's the somewhere? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you're going to school. So I ended up going to Kent State University for one semester. I specialized in graphic design. I was like, I don't know if I like graphic design. It's not really a calling to me because they made me design boxes after boxes to understand negative and positive space. And I'm like, I can't do it. I want a paintbrush and I want color and I want story and I want like depth to art. I don't want it to be this cookie cutter thing. He was like, all right, then out of school, what do you want to do? I'm like, I think I want to do fashion design. And at that time, we were already moving to California. And then I was like, okay, I got to find a fashion design program here and see how it does for me. So I ended up going to a school called FITM. Would I say it's a great college? It's all right. I feel like I was a teacher more than I was a student. I say that very confidently because I feel like a lot of people who are probably in my class can be like, yeah, Mina tutored me a lot. Because I really used to tutor kids there. I feel like, again, the system wasn't built for me to become an incredible designer or fashion student or businesswoman. I just feel like it sparked my interest of, okay, I think fashion design is where I want to go. So I can say like, I don't regret it because I love my friends there. I love my teachers there. I love what I did learn, but I just don't think that I needed to go through that experience in order to learn fashion design. Learning fashion design was actually on YouTube. So I learned most of the fashion stuff through YouTube and other people in the industry to understand what I want to do. But it allowed me to be like, I want to be a fashion designer. So when I left that school, my brother was already working with my dad on Match Resident, doing updates and all this stuff. And we were like, let's do a business together. So we went to my dad. We're like, you have a business idea now. It took us a while. My brother was getting experience in the business world. I was getting experience in the design world. And we came together. We're like, we have an idea. We want to pitch it to dad and see what he thinks. We knew that we were going to get my dad to support us on this, at least give us some sort of funding to start off with what we can. I was working a coffee shop job for 2 years just to kind of like maintain my spending. I didn't have a car. Actually, I didn't have a car for 8 years because I couldn't afford one. My dad wouldn't just give us a car. He was like, I can afford to get you a car, but you're going to work to get a car. So I think it really like ignited us to be like, we got to figure out what we're going to do. So I worked at a coffee shop job. And then while I was building PaliRoots at the same time, like jumping around because the story is so complex. But my dad came to us and he was like, okay, what idea do we have? And we know how much my dad loves Palestine and how much he loves his roots. He's like obsessed with being Palestinian, teaches us the stories. When we go back to Palestine, he's teaching us about a fruit. He's like, oh, look at this fruit. You pop it open. I'm like, what? This is crazy. Like, I can't believe you know about this. Because he grew up in Palestine. So he's showing us his time in Palestine and how connected he was with the land and the things that he knows about it. So we learned a lot of the Palestinian culture, especially from a farmer's perspective, because we're considered fellahin.
Yep.
We learned what it meant to be a farmer in Palestine through him. And I feel like when Hussein and I were like, let's do a Palestinian brand, we knew my dad's going to love it and we knew he's going to support it. So we were smart about taking this angle, but we never would have expected for that business idea to be what it is today. Because we're like, we can just be a t-shirt brand. Let's start from there. It could be a trial and error. Let's see if we do well in it. And then here we are, almost 9 years, completely built from what we thought we would be. Also, I think the idea of starting PaliRoots was really derived from my grandfather saying, like, I didn't get on a boat at the age of 15, leave my family back home, go through Peru, go through Colombia and sell knives and blankets on the streets. I didn't go through all the struggle for you guys to live this beautiful life in America. It's like, no, you built something here. Because my grandfather's an entrepreneur. He had one of the biggest grocery stores and one of the biggest like retail stores in Chicago and Puerto Rico as well. So my grandfather, I think, passed it down to my dad as well. But business entrepreneurship goes a long way, even for my great-great-grandfather. I feel like it's been embedded into us. Somehow we always go into doing business. But my grandfather told us, like, I didn't bring you all the way to America just for you guys to have this good life. You're going to build something for our people here, and you're going to send money back home. And then after you're done doing that, when Palestine's free, you're going back home. You know, like there's no purpose to be here if home is free, like go back home. So really my goal in life is to go back home. I want to live in Palestine. And that's why I have a Palestinian citizenship. I have a Palestinian passport, is that I'm ready to go back home at any time when my dad is okay with us moving there. I think he's scared for us to go there at this point. And it is a tough life being there. But I think when that time in my life I choose to go, I want to go.
Yeah. And your brother is named after your Cedo? Is that right?
Yeah, he is. Hasan is named after Sidi Hasan.
Very
And I'm
cool.
named after my grandmother, Siti Aminah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Both
So
on
we
your dad's side or your mom's side?
look on my dad's side.
Dad's side. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then Hussein and I fight for our parents' name. I'm like, let me at least have Zahran. You know, he's like, no, I'm having Zahran. I'm like, okay, let me at least have Amna, you know,
Yeah.
my mom's name. So we're trying to keep the tradition still where we name our first children after our parents.
Yeah.
But it's always that the eldest, which is Hasan, he gets to choose whether he wants to take my parents' name. But if he doesn't, I'm next up in line.
Well, kudos to your grandfather for really instilling all of this in you and making sure you never forget where you came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless him. He's a great man.
Is he still alive?
If he is, yeah, he's still alive. He's actually in Palestine right now.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, they would spend 6 months here and then 6 months back in Palestine. And it's crazy to see how much their health changes when they're back home. Like 360, he would be in hospitals all the time here in America. He goes back in Palestine, he's walking to the masjid. He's like, my grandma's making bread outside and feeding her chickens. I'm like, you guys were saying like, oh, Lahari, like back in Chicago, what happened? But it really just changes. When you're back there, there's just this addicting energy you can't get enough of and you don't want to leave. So every time they come back, they're like, we're literally just coming to America to see our kids and our grandkids. Otherwise, we would just stay there.
Yeah. It's hard to describe the emotion, the feeling going back home.
There's no words for it. It's just, you can't help but cry the moment you step in. It's overwhelming, honestly. But I haven't been back since 2018 and I'm just dying to go back, honestly.
Well, we're going to open up a shop for PaliRoots at one point.
Yeah, we
Palestine,
are.
right? Yeah, I said we're all community we're all going to jump in and help.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
It is we. It is completely a we. I mean, PaliRoots is not Hasan and I. It's all of us, because it's a brand for the community. It's not for me and Hasan. Like all of us is involved, especially in the way that we're going to evolve PaliRoots. It's going to be a lot more community centered.
Yeah. I have to give you and your brother credit. You started PaliRoots at, how old were you?
I think I was 21.
21. So I get from older people in their 30s and their 40s, in some cases their 50s, I always hear, oh, I want to do this business, or I'm going to do this new thing. And what do you think about it? Or will you invest in it, or whatever it may be? And 9 out of 10 times I follow up with them 6 months later. Oh, this happened. Or, I'm not judging them, but people don't realize the work it takes. The fact that you did it at the age of 21. And I could even tell when you and I spoke on the phone, when it's like game time for you, you're super focused.
Yeah.
And I don't think you look behind. You never look back after that.
Yeah. It's just the now and the future. Like, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
The only time I have to go in the back is when I have to do research. That's the only time. The thing is, like, I can understand why someone in their 30s would have a difficult time starting their dream idea in business. And I think the reason why is that your way of thinking when you were younger in comparison to where you are now is very different. When you're younger, you feel like you have nothing to lose. Like, I'm just in it and I'm going to just keep going. When you're older, especially if you're married, especially if you have kids and all these things, you have a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight on your shoulder that you're kind of like, if I quit my 9 to 5 job to do this, I might lose everything for the livelihood, not just of me, but for my family. So I feel for them. I think it is a challenge, but at the end of the day, your mind is your only challenge that you need to overcome. It's like, just find what it is blocking you from doing it, because we like to say like there's not enough time in the world, but you could always make at least 1 hour of your time to work on something you love. If you have that mentality, then you can achieve that. But I do feel for those who try to start them, because I do have friends that have always wanted to start something and I'm like, go for it. Like, what do you have to lose? And it's like everything. I'm like, that's what you tell yourself though. So it's like, just go for it. You don't have to lose everything. You have the mentality, but you don't actually have to lose it. Just go for it. I always say that starting is actually the easiest part. The hardest part is scaling. That is a whole other ballgame. I'm like, oh my God, like Q3 is like all throughout the year. You don't stop. We think like the hardest part of the year is right when, Black Friday and the biggest shopping season comes in. No, that is a piece of cake in comparison to like what it actually means to scale a company and kind of evolving the brand. Because we've said like new era like 300 times. And I think people are like, what do you mean a new era? Another one? I'm like, we're always evolving. And I think this time though, it's very different for us. Like the shift that we're doing, because we would say we're launching a new website. Right now it's like new website, new team, new message, new angle, new everything. Like we're just completely uprooting the brand, but putting it in a bigger pot. Because like, when you grow something, if you keep it in the same pot, it's going to stop at one point. And no matter how much you feed it, no matter how much you prune it, no matter how much you do, the fruits will not grow. So in order for your plant to grow, you need to put it in a pot, a bigger pot, more soil, more fertilizer, and that tree is going to grow. Just a little analogy for the farmer lovers out there. In case you didn't know, that's how trees grow. That's kind of like this new thing. We're actually uprooting the tree and putting it into a bigger pot right now. We're putting it into the land, actually. Not the pot, the land. Came from a pot into the land.
Oh, wow. So you're not afraid of change, clearly.
No, I need change. If I don't change,
Okay.
I'm afraid of not changing. That's the problem.
Yeah. So I teach a class at a university in DC that has change management in it. I think I want you to come talk to my students next semester. Okay.
I'd be honored. I'd be like, you need a change.
Because you have to have the ability to pivot all the time, right?
It's so important. It's like water. Or it needs to keep flowing to stay fresh and to stay new.
So I want to talk about the future of PaliRoots and why you're pivoting, but I do want to sort of describe your clothing, and I hope you agree here. Clothing and fashion as a form of resistance and a form of education. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think clothing is actually probably even more than that. I think clothing is a way of self-expression. Like we use so many ways to express ourselves, but I do think that the most powerful medium is what you put on your body, right? Like you can be visibly Muslim just with a scarf. You could be wearing a thobe and visibly people will know you're Muslim. You could be wearing a traditional outfit and be like, oh, I definitely know that's Native American. So I think what you wear is a reflection of who you are. So it's super important that fashion continues to be that. Because I feel like back in the days, we may have not put a lot of focus into what we were wearing, but what we were wearing was actually derived a lot from where we came from and what we wanted to reflect about ourselves. So I do think what you wear is an opportunity for you to be a catalyst, for you to start a conversation with other people. And I think, yeah, clothing creates conversations, it bridges gaps, but it also is an identity. It's a way of reflecting your identity. So absolutely, yes.
So here's when I really figured out that you were Palestinian. When I read about the ICNA booth, where you all decided to try to build your own booth. And I'm going to let you take it from here. But I was like, that's definitely Palestinian right there.
Yeah, that was great. A lot of people don't know that the first day we launched PaliRoots was actually at a convention because we were like, okay, we just spent X amount of money building this brand. How are we going to sell the stock? How are we going to sell the stock, meet people, practice word of marketing? Because we were like, oh, we can run ads. And we're like, oh my God, running ads is really difficult. It's really expensive. We don't have the budget for that. What's the first thing we need to do? We're like, let's go launch our brand at a trade show, but have a website that they can go to. And it was a good conversation starter because we would tell people like, oh, when did you guys launch? We're like, today. We launched today, actually. And they're like, oh, okay. And we were the only two young kids in that bazaar. Like there wasn't really brands going there. It was usually people were sourcing things from the East and bringing them to the West. And it was a true bazaar. That's really what they do. But instead of us going to the East, we were just making them and then taking inspiration from the East and then building a streetwear brand. And at the time was just t-shirts and hats and accessories, but we really tried to make it an actual line. And then that first day we made all of our money back. We are like, cool, let's keep going. And we went to maybe like 15 different trade shows in 1 year. And because flying was too expensive while we were starting the company, we're like, let's just drive it all, So we rented a little Penske truck, filled up our entire booth, built our booth from plywood. So every time we would have a show, we would build it out of plywood. I don't really know how safe that was, but we're 20, so we didn't know better. The reason why we built the booth and why we had a booth built was because we wanted to hang up lights. Because we were like, how do we get people to notice us and want to come to us? We're like, lighting. And one of the things we learned from the first few trade shows was that people love taking selfies. And we were like, let's go ahead and make a booth with the best selfie lighting. So we put lights. We even got light bulbs that were like a little bit warmer, so they were better for selfie lighting. And then we would put mirrors. So when they would walk by the booth, look at the mirror and like, wow, I look really great in this lighting, to take a picture. That was an opportunity to be like, oh, you look really great. What's your name? Aminah, da, 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 da. And then they'll be like, what is this? And it's like, boom. That's how you naturally get people to come to your booth, is you first try to get to know them, and then the product is right there. So that was always our goal, is like, let's connect, and then they will naturally see the product. Honestly, we got a lot of psychology built into the way that we did our business. And that helped us create a lot of really amazing connections, because it came at one point where we would just see people over and over again from every convention and just be like, oh my God, how are you? Da, 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 da. We would talk for 20 minutes. And then they'd be like, what new stuff do you have this year? So people care about you. And that's why we were so comfortable being the faces of the brand, is that we were like, we're proud to represent this brand and we're proud to have this brand. It's okay that people know who we are, especially for Palestine. Like, we don't want people to be confused on what our roots are. And even though we do this, people still assume I'm a different ethnicity. And I'm like, nope, I was born and raised from Palestine, straight falaha too. Like, I'm the one that's like deeply rooted into the land. Like, you can't uproot me. So that's kind of like our idea of why we did boots and why we even built them, was for that reason. So that was a great but very tedious time.
That first booth didn't go so well, I think. Did I read right? You guys had to flip it upside down?
That was actually our third year of doing conventions.
Okay.
And it did go well, actually, because we built it, but Hasan built it with the sticks going up, like the legs going up, instead of like, hey, let's build it like, and then we continue on. He just built it upside down. And we were like, how are we going to flip this? Was it 20 by 10, like gazebo plethora thing? And we were like, we have to flip it. And so we just went around the bazaar, like during the times everybody was building the booths, like, hey, can you help us flip this really big structure? So we gathered around everyone that we knew of the 3 years that we've met them. And they were like, all right, we're going to flip this thing. And we ended up flipping it. And as soon as it landed, we were like in disbelief that it landed, but it ended up turning out really great. We had the best selfie lighting booth that year. That was a great year, honestly. But I just would never build a plethora like that again. We're farmers. Not builders.
You all did Depka right after that?
Absolutely. Yep. Depka, celebration, Zagharit, the whole 9 yards. That was a celebratory moment and something that'll live in my head. And I'm happy that I have a video of it. I actually posted it. We posted it recently on our page of the time that we flipped it.
Is it online right now?
It
Or
is, yeah. We did a nostalgia, just kind of like the intro into the new era. We're kind of paying all of our love to the past. And so we did like a carousel of all the old footage of Mina Hussein working in our, I think it was like a 200 square feet office. It was so tiny. And it was all of our inventory. So I posted some of that. I posted like the first time we got like a Black Friday sale. And it was just like, oh my God, this is really great. Like this company actually is working. And some clips of like the moment we looked at a gigantic bin of packing things, which took us maybe 3 days to get through of packing orders. We make our packaging a little complicated. It's not just slip it in a poly bag, da da da. From day one, we made like a custom poly bag and we had to heat seal it, handwrite notes. We would even put the gift option of like, you can handwrite the note. It was me writing all of them. And some of the notes that I read, it was like Romeo and Juliet all of a sudden. I was like, what is going on here? It was really beautiful to kind of like be able to pack the very first few orders until we ended up moving into a warehouse for them to do it for us because it got a little too much, honestly.
yeah, I mean, check that out.
There you go.
Yeah, when I got this, because I think this may have been one of the first things that I've gotten. I could be wrong. I mean, we're gonna keep it real. Sometimes when you order something and it's out of and you're just not sure, right? I
Mhm.
got this. I was like, whoa, they're not playing. They're not messing around here. This is amazing and great.
Yeah.
Like you had little, I think, stickers in there as well.
Did you get the candy?
If I did get the candy, the twins probably stole it from me, and I don't know.
Yeah, we probably stole the candy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's actually funny. The reason we actually added candy in there was that my dad, back in the days, before he launched his company, he was selling electronics on eBay. And he would put a candy or a lollipop in every single order that his customer purchased. So it'd be a laptop and it'd be like a piece of lollipop, you know?
Mm.
So we were like, let's add like a piece of candy in every order. And then we like, which candy though do we use? And one of the candies that my dad used to eat in Palestine when he was growing up there, he would just like walk to the store, eat this candy, and come back home. It would be the Zotz Fizz, the one where you crunch on it and it fizzes everywhere.
Yeah.
So we put Zotz candy in every single order. For I think 5 years of PaliRoots, we put candy in and we were like, okay, I think the candy's done. People are not talking about it anymore. So we no longer put candy in there. So
Hey, no, no, no. We're gonna have to bring this back. I'm sorry.
bring the candies back. I don't know. It'd have to be by high demand.
So those listening to this podcast, please ask Aminah to bring the candy back. Please send her a DM on Instagram if possible.
Bring the candies back. They're great.
So it's a Palestinian brand, but the heart, the soul, the hospitality behind it, right? That feeling. Why was that so important for you to make sure that you infuse that in your overall strategy?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't name our customer service team customer service. We call them the hospitality team. And it's like we want to make sure that our policy is the most forgiving and the most, how do I say, most lenient. We're actually like extremely understanding and like we want everyone to be happy when they purchase from PaliRoots. If we know that there's a customer that's upset, it's as if we lost everybody, So we really do our best to kind of be reasonable while still keep the company afloat. If you try to return something after a year, I don't think we can do that. But it's like if you purchase something during a sale or before a sale, and then 1 week later we launch the sale, we'll honor that price for you. Brands don't do that. Like other bigger brands don't do like, oh, you missed out on the sale. So we try to put that as our forefront because that's embedded into our roots. And if we're going to be a Palestinian brand, we got to stick to the roots of what we were taught is that be the most hospitable, be the most forgiving. But we try to do our best because sometimes some of the requests we get are a little crazy. And I'm like, I'm sorry if we can't do that. I swear we do everything but that. And honestly, like when it comes to shipping, like a lot of the things back in the days was like shipping to overseas were so expensive. We actually ate up a lot of the cost of the shipping just to get orders over to international because we wanted international community to be able to afford it. And we were like, okay, we're just going to have to pay a part of their shipping so that it could be a little bit cheaper for them. And we had to negotiate rates. And now our rates are insane for international. Like you can get something over to the UK for like $15 now. In comparison to back then, it was like $40, $30. But that's the nice thing about being in business for so long. You get to negotiate rates with shipping carriers.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying, just for the audience who's going to listen or watch this, what you're saying is actually true because even when we spoke on the phone, I love the white version of this hoodie,
Mm.
the kickback hoodie. And I was like, the feel changed or the size changed with the black one. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll just send you a new one. I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't have to send me a new one. I'm just telling you, I was just asking. And you insisted and insisted. I was like, no, 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 no. We don't want to do that. That's all good. I appreciate it.
I want you to be the happiest with what you get. Like, that's very important for me. And that's what we train our team to, is just like the customer, we want to make them happy. We don't have this like customer's always right, because we're like, sometimes, but if it's something that we are like, you know what, we can do something about this. It's not going to hurt us for us to make them happy, then we'll do it. If it's a really crazy request, then we'll be nice about it. Be like, hey, I'm so sorry we can't do this, but here's a discount. Here's credit for your next order. Even though we had nothing to do and it wasn't our fault, we still tried to find a way to make them happy, even if it's like the shipping carrier lost their package. It's like, we don't know what to do about that. That's on them. Go file a report. But because you have to go through this, here's on us just to make things a little bit better for you. Hospitality is so important. And I think that's why people trust us a lot, because you're right. Being an Arab brand, especially back in the day, it's like any Arab brand was like taking 10 days to ship something out, 2 weeks for it to arrive, and and the process was so long, and customer service wasn't there, and people were like, where's my money? We never do that. Our team is locked down, making sure that we're responding to everybody. We even respond to DMs, and the amount of DMs we receive in a day, it's crazy. But we have someone dedicated to just DMs. Like, their full-time job is responding to DMs, because that's just how you connect with people. That's how you get people to be happy and get faster responses, and we do our best. So communication is definitely the forefront for our brand. But that's how we train everybody on the team. This is for the community. It's not for us to win. It's for all of us to win.
Yeah. Social responsibility. I'm going to even say maybe social innovation is also at the forefront for you. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to let you give me the numbers, but how many meals have you delivered in Palestine?
So far, I think we're reaching 4 million right now.
4
Uh,
million meals. Wow. And there's a
I think
tracker, correct?
there is a tracker on the website. I have to check. I have not checked the tracker in a very long time. And also, Hasan usually manages the entire meal program. He built the app on our back end. Like, this isn't something that existed. We had to get a software developer to develop this concept, because the idea of donating meals every time you purchase something, and the more that you purchase, the more that you donate, is not something that exists in the market. And we were like, well, this is the only way we want to do this. So we started it from scratch. So in terms of the real number that we have right now, and like the receipts and like keeping things organized, that's Hasan. I'm more on the design front, which is the better side. I have more fun there. The number in crunching is a little hard, but I think we're at 4 million meals right now.
And you also did an Eid toy drive at one point as
We
well?
did. Yeah, that was honestly one of my favorite personal projects. We reached out to our nonprofit organization partners, Mecca, Middle East Children Alliance. They are my heart, my soul. The whole entire team, the organization, the way that they do things is just beyond me. I'm like, the way that they even till now do it in Gaza, I'm like, these people deserve a spot in heaven, like before me. I would give up my spot for them anytime, because the way that they go about things, the way that they do things is just out of this world. The way that story came about was, we were so focused on the meal program, feeding kids, but we were like, but kids want to be kids, and Eid's coming up. Hey, we want to donate just outside of everything else like that. Meals will come through. We're going to give you an extra amount just from Hasan and I. Please give all the kids toys. Just do something for them. So this wasn't raised. This wasn't funded. This wasn't promised from the meal program. This was just something Hasan and I wanted to do from the PaliRoots community to them. They were like, no, we can take this money. We can buy more meals. We're like, nope. We want the kids to have toys this year. Let them be kids. So we ended up asking all the kids, what do you want? Right? And we did a whole interview style. And the kids are like, I want a harusa. I want a football. They're all excited. They went and bought everything. And they were just the most excited kids. The videos, I've never seen smiles like that in my life. Like, they were so stoked to be kids. And actually, the lead representative of the PaliRoots meal program, or the representative for PaliRoots in Gaza, her name is Wafa. She calls us and she goes, that was the best idea. Like, I've never seen the kids so excited in their lives, like, to receive a toy I'm happy that we did this because even everyone who was distributing the toys were like crying from how beautiful it was to see the kids feel like kids again. That was just one of my favorite projects ever, is giving those kids toys during Eid. And something that I always want to do just right now, it's difficult to source food, let alone toys. So inshallah, after this genocide, that's the first thing we're gonna do is like, let's spoil these kids. Like these kids deserve everything right now, especially with what they're going through.
And I want people to understand too, especially in the clothing business, the margins are not always the greatest depending on how you put your product together. You're giving a few dollars, whatever it may be, to a social cause, obviously Palestine. That says a lot about you all.
Yeah. Because the thing is, like, PaliRoots is a passion. Sid and I actually, we build apps and websites and we do consulting and all these things right now. Like, PaliRoots is really a passion project. It was never about growth and marketing and sales and numbers. It never was about that. And sometimes I'm like, dang, we should have been a little bit more conscious about finances because we were just like spending left and right because it was all about the creative idea and the concept. If there's a designer in Palestine and they were asking for this number, we're like, no negotiation, like straight up just pay because this is a dream project. Let's do this. People think like, oh, this shirt's only $5 from here, from China, from India. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. But there's overhead costs, there's marketing costs, there's also shipping costs, duties costs, and then there's this cost. And there's like just so many costs that the product ends up being $30 to $40. And then a healthy company should have at least a 30 to 40% margin just in case, just so they can fund even just the next collection. So people don't understand that. They think like, oh, it's $5, that's the price. I'm like, no, there's actually so much cost, like keeping the team paid and not having to negotiate ridiculous terms with them. Like what they ask us as their pay, that's the pay you want. You know, we'll try. And we try like, hey, can you work with us a little bit? We can't afford that. Like we'll work up to it. We'll get there. And like, I think that was really hard for us is that like, it was always hard this last 8 years to have capital for PaliRoots. And like receiving capital was kind of difficult. And like opportunities was very difficult. Being a Palestinian brand, like there's so many things and challenges we have to go through. Like it's so hard for us to get into a store and have a store want to represent a Palestinian brand. Like they'd be like, no, it's too political for me. Working with influencers, even if they were hot up influencers that were big, but they were having contracts with like Maybelline and like all these other fancier brands, they didn't want to ruin their reputation or their business with other brands. So they would deny doing an influencer collaboration with us. And we were like, but why? You are Palestinian. Like, what's going on? Like a lot of the times we would have that kind of experience or an influencer tells us like, oh, I want 20K for a post. And they have maybe like the worst engagement. And we're like, guys, come on. This isn't just like for our own gain. Like this is something we coming together as a community. Like just believe us and trust us. And one day, if PaliRoots is gigantic, everyone's eating, everyone's going to be taken care of, just like believe in what we're trying to do. But we can't expect people to do that. So I get it and I understand it. And I don't judge anybody for that. Even the Palestinians who are influencers that didn't work with us because of their contracts. Make your money. Like that's your choice and that's fine. And I wouldn't want to take that away from them. Like that is your job, your livelihood. I understand. I know what it's like being Palestinian and having to hide that identity. So I felt compassion for them. I wasn't necessarily upset. I felt more compassion for them because that sucks. You know, that really sucks that you can't do that. But I think now with how things have changed, it's a little different. I feel like, you know, even for us, the way that we think about things is that we spent these 8 years making products that was visibly Palestinian. We put a whole Palestine flag on a shirt because that was like, there you go, right in your face. A whole kufiya, long sleeves, like all the things were like maps and this, like we wanted people to know the map, the kufiya, the flag. Map, kufiya, and flag was everything for the longest time. I think the shift right now is going into what's the story? Who are the Palestinians? Where is Palestine? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? And now that's where the storytelling and the conceptualization comes in is how can we achieve that through PaliRoots? How can we take things further and have people now fall in love with the Palestinian culture so that when Palestine is free, everyone's booking a one-way ticket to Palestine to go see what it's all about. Because when they go, they're going to finally understand who we are as people and want to go to begin with. And we tried to do this in 2018. We did like a whole YouTube series. I don't know if you've seen
the Palestine travel series.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was our attempt at getting people to be convinced to go visit Palestine because they'd all go to Haifa and Jerusalem, but they would never cross the wall. It's like, but go to the other side. The other side is where it's really at, like where the Palestinians are living. And what I would say is we won with that because we got a really, really big YouTuber to come across our YouTube series. I don't know how many million subscribers he has now, but he actually saw it, messaged us. She's like, hey, I actually want to go into the West Bank. Can I connect with your grandparents? We're like, yeah, go ahead. Like, here's their number. Go. He ended up sleeping over their house for like 2, 3 days. They took him into the Sahel, into the farmland. They cooked for him, took care of him, and he created a whole video about it. And I think the video is at some million views right now. His name is Living with Bobby.
okay.
He's actually from Michigan, but he travels the world and does these really great videos. But he actually stayed in Palestine and stayed with my grandparents. And so I think we won. All that hard work of us recording that, we won with one person. He decided to go over the border and come to the West Bank of Palestine.
So you have more empathy than I do on this matter of the influencers not supporting PaliRoots. I call it the DJ Khaled effect, just so you know.
Yeah. If you're still this way after all of what we've been through the last, 15 months, 16 months, I don't know how many months it's been, then I'm like, I'm judging. I'm judging 110%. And as much as I try hard not to, it's kind of like, that's it. There's no more excuses. There's no more excuses as to why you can't do what you want. If you still care too much about your brand deals supporting Palestine or not, you should always pick Palestine.
Yeah, I mean, we see it with the podcast too, and I can't wrap my head around a lot of these individuals wanting to do work outside of the Palestinian community. It's like,
Mhm.
no, we're here. It's game time for all of us to step up and really do something for our homeland. What are you all thinking? Why people are still that way, though?
Honestly, that reason can never be as big as what's going on in Palestine. Like, there's no way. If there is something that's bigger than that, I want you to challenge me. Like, let me see. If your life is put at risk and you're about to die, okay, that's literally the only excuse I'll think is reasonable. But I don't think it's going to come to that extent, you know? And even some like people till this day are putting their lives at risk being journalists.
Yep.
Even here in America, you see how many of them have been deported, how many death threats and all this stuff. And I own a brand and I still get death threats. And I don't even post political related things. I try to keep things as cultural as possible, mainly because for the protection of the page. I love how everybody talks about shadow ban this last year, and we've been experiencing shadow ban for the last 8 years. Our page has been taken down. Our Shopify was taken down, at one point for us being vocally Palestinian and speaking out against things for a very long time. There's no excuse, to be honest. If you are still this way, it's like support Palestinian brands, support Palestinian journalists. Like just do your part as much as you can. You don't have to make your whole identity and brand about supporting a brand. If you're a fashion influencer, like reach out to us. Tell us you want to support us. Tell us you want to come in and be involved. Like we're happy to send things to you guys. We just don't prioritize influencer marketing because I think we're a little bit traumatized by that experience, to be quite honest. A little disappointed, and I think that disappointment, we had to really swallow that and find compassion, and just be like, it's okay. We understand. It's fine. Let's move forward.
Not
So,
okay. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm going to say it for you. It's not okay. It makes no sense to me. It's extremely frustrating, and it
yeah,
has to change now. This is the only way we're going to win, is if we
yeah,
all come together and support each other. So
exactly.
I hear the empathy, but for me, no.
I really try to. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing is about being Palestinian too, is that like the hardest thing about being Palestinian is that we've had to go through division a lot. Like you see Fatah Hamas, like Free Palestine, one state, two state. It's like there always has to be some sort of like side, right? And that was designed by the occupiers. It was meant to divide us. And like when we receive messages from people who are not even interested in or care for the brand, but more so the intention of wanting to defame a brand. I've seen journalists being defamed left and right. I've seen designers in the Palestinian space being defamed left and right by their own Palestinians. And I think one of the things for me is like, it used to upset me where I'm like, why not just reach out and have a conversation with me? Why not let's have a talk? Maybe let's get to an understanding. Because the way that I was raised, if there was a dispute between two people, you had the village come together, the elders from both sides, and you hash it out right then and there. That's how it's done. It stayed within the community, it stayed within the people, not broadcasted. And then people are so easily influenced by others nowadays, especially on social media. No one really has the ability to make their own opinion and maybe ask questions or maybe challenge it. We just assume things because that's just how they are. And as a brand, the last thing we want to do is to have to defend ourselves because we're just like, why? Why do we have to do that? That's not, first of all, that's going to make the person that is saying these sort of things look bad. And it's going to make us look bad because they look at us as a brand, as a company, not as two people. They don't
Right.
look at us as people behind this brand. And I think that's the challenging thing is that, like, why can't we come together and just have a conversation? So back in the days with PaliRoots, when someone would be upset with us, I'd be like, hey, let's get on a Zoom call. Let's have a community talk. I opened a Zoom call, broadcasted. I was like, I'm here to take all the feedback. I'm here to take everything. Just give me it all. Here it is. If you have something to say, jump in, right? 3 people showed up. 3. And they came in, they're like, one of them was like, I love PaliRoots, I love what you do. And I'm like, no, this is supposed to be feedback. Like, I needed people to come in. So it's like, how much do you actually care about Palestinian brands? You know, I really want to wake the community up. And that's where the compassion comes in, where it's like, be careful, because sometimes we don't know when we're being manipulated by the occupiers. So anytime I do see a negative comment towards any Palestinian brand or Palestinian journalist, I'm going to just assume that they're Zionists, you know, to be quite honest, because that's what it comes off to me. That's not what we're taught. And I think we need to find different ways of giving our feedback back to journalists, designers, artists, brands. Like, please, like, that's instilled into our culture, and that's how we have to practice it.
There's been a couple of times where the podcast has been attacked for having a guest on for whatever reason they didn't like the guest, and my offer always is let's get on the phone and chat, and then they just disappear.
We just don't. And you're
Yeah.
like, come on, guys. But you know what? Here again with my compassion, though, like, and I really feel that because we feel like the only way that the world will hear us and care about us is when we scream and when we try to get alarm signs like, hello, hello, everybody needs to listen to me. I have something very urgent. And where you see the protests are loud, that's so important. Do that. We have to scream for our liberation, but we do not need to do that to one another. You know,
Right.
I think there's different ways that we can handle it together. I remember once there was a post we made, and it was like Palestinians were leaving their comments and they were a little bit like rough. You know, I was like, hey guys, you know, like, ouch, you know, this hurts. But then it was like, we would see Zionists go in there and they're leaving like, yeah. And I'm like, wait, are you guys agreeing? I'm like, no, you're not supposed to agree. So it's kind of like, just be careful because we answer every DM for a reason. We answer every email for a reason because we want to make sure that people know that, hey, our line is open. Just reach out. I feel that compassion because I understand that we're so wired to think that we need to like cancel someone, that we need to attack somebody because that's the only way we can allow people to hear from us. And that's because the occupiers did that to our mentality. Like, oh, you want our attention, you want something, you're going to have to scream for it, you're going to have to fight for it. But we don't have to do that to each other. You know, we should be able to talk and be able to have a conversation together. So just remember, this comes from years and years of trauma that led us to be this way. So when someone does that, I'm like, I'm sorry you feel this way. And I'm sorry that maybe I didn't see your message or didn't hear you in the past. Like, I'm sorry, but let's get on a call. Like, I want to understand what's going on. I don't know why they wouldn't get on a call because that would help me understand more. And I want to be the best version for myself. I want to represent my community in the best way that I can. My line is always open. It's always there.
Yeah. One thing people don't realize, and I learned the hard way with the podcast, is we have to put so much more in than other brands that are not affiliated with Palestine or about Palestine. I mean, you just mentioned you have to answer every DM. Most other companies don't do that whatsoever. But look, you're almost forced to do that, right? I know you probably like doing it a little bit because of the customer service aspect, but think about it. You're actually forced to work harder in order to
Yeah.
be successful.
Yeah, it's definitely cutting into the overhead having this extra person where I could actually be using it somewhere else, but I just don't want to ever leave anybody hanging on a question or even a concern if they don't like something. An opinion is an opinion. Everybody has different opinions. We're open to hearing opinions. That's why we never delete comments or remove them unless like they're very hurtful comments, like judging or bullying someone. And I think that comes from me where I'm like, if you're bullying somebody, that's not going to stay on my page. That's going to stay very like away because like there's ways you can express your opinion being respectful and it doesn't matter. I like difference of opinions. I think that's important, but I just don't think it should come to a point where we're name calling or saying nasty things about each other. I will protect the page at that cost. But if it's an opinion, I keep opinions. It keeps people interested. It is a bridge for connecting people. And it doesn't mean people are going to be exactly the same. So we don't do that. Like, we allow people to come and express their opinion, but I will not allow somebody to name call. That's my protection of my community. That's not a good example for other people.
Totally agree with you. So I want to talk about the future of PaliRoots. You're making a big change, and I want you to walk us through that change. You talked about it a little bit earlier, but I do want to throw one idea out there, honestly, and I really mean this. PaliRoots University. Because if I think about your school that you went through, I don't know if it's around anymore, specifically for the Palestinian community or the Palestinian youth, putting them through some sort of program with entrepreneurship. And you're smiling, so maybe you're already doing this, I hope.
No, I just think it's honestly a really great idea. And you know what? Like, I think it's so important for those who are interested in university. I feel like I was like, oh, I feel like I can do this. But I don't know if I'm really necessarily the best teacher because I'm always learning.
But that's
Like,
what makes you a great teacher, is that you're always learning.
thank you.
Yeah.
I do my best. I can inspire people. I love inspiring people, but to teach them business, I think Hasan is a great businessman. I'm a great designer and conceptual storyteller. And I feel like if you want to learn that, then absolutely, like, we're there. But I think it is important to be able to, like, mentor kids in Gaza or in Palestine or anywhere in the world who want to start a business. Like, hey, let's maybe set up a call where every week we come in. And the way that I would organize it is like, week one, come in with an idea. If you don't have an idea, don't sign up. Go to school, go to university, figure out what your idea is. And it's almost like being our dad. Like, we are becoming our dad of, like, who wants to pitch their idea and actually guiding them. So I think it's a good idea. That's a good idea, Ed. I like that.
Your dad could teach the first core class, PaliRoots 101. Go from there.
That'd be a good idea. I'd love that. I'd love that. I think that'd be a great idea. I agree. There are so many intelligent Palestinians, especially in Gaza. Like, I always say, like, those who have gone through a genocide are actually the ones with the highest IQs and the highest educations. I
Yep.
went to school in Palestine for high school. I lasted for 2 months. 2 months. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. I had to take calculus, algebra, physics, biology, all in one semester. And I was like, there's no way you guys have a life. Like, there's no way. And it just, like, you go and look at their tawjihis, or when they come here, they look at it like this is a joke.
I survived Palestine in kindergarten for 1 year, but back in the day, they used to hit you with the ruler, and I was a troublemaker. I was always getting hit. So
Yeah, they always did that. Same here. I went to kindergarten in Palestine too. My parents always used to send us back as much as we can just to learn the language and the culture. And I'm grateful that they did that because it's allowed me to really love my land since I was a kid.
So talk about PaliRoots. You're taking us to the next level now, the next iteration. What does that look like?
This new era. So, when we first started PaliRoots, Hussein and I were like, oh, let's make a brand that's very storytelling and cultural, because we wanted people to know Palestine more than just like the kufiya, the flag, and the map. We wanted to know more like the falah kind of perspective on it, like the farming, the poppy flowers, the sunbird, like all these things like that represent the Palestinian stories and the heritage. So we launched, a small line. And then from 2016 to where we are now, in between, a lot of things have changed in Palestine, like the politics, attacks that were happening in Gaza. Like, nobody was hearing, nobody was listening, nobody knew what Palestine was, to the point that I think in 2021, I went to a coffee shop and some guy was like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm Palestinian. He goes, oh, you're from Pakistan? And I'm just like, no, I'm from Palestine, the Middle East. He's like, where is it by? And I'm like, it's right next to Jordan. And he's like, I never heard of it before. And I'm like, dang, like, why not?
Yeah.
Why hasn't he heard of the word Palestine? So I made it a mission to throw a whole bunch of Palestine related stuff on merch, but not just like any product, kind of like the product you're wearing. How can we take a super stylish quilted style hoodie, still very high quality, and just throw a map on there? Let the map speak for itself, or make a full Palestine flag hoodie sweatsuit. Let's just try to get it everywhere. But then this last 15 months was the biggest pivot. And that biggest pivot was people know who we are now. Things are changing. People want to know what Palestine is, who are the people, what are their cultures. And we're seeing like TikToks using like Arabic music, and we're seeing like people wearing kufiyas and actually know what a kufiya is now, not just know that it's Palestinian, but know the meaning of it and what the patterns represent. So now we're like, oh my God, Hasan, finally, full circle, we're going back to 2016 because we started 2016 being storytellers and then eventually kept the story on Palestine exists, and Palestine's not going anywhere. And then now we're going into, oh my God, people know Palestine. They know it exists. Let's now dig deep. And I think it came in such a great time because the company has evolved so much with like what we've learned, what we've gone through, what designers we need, where we need the designers, what kind of marketing works, what kind of marketing doesn't work. Do we do influencer marketing? So that trial and error period really helped us to become exactly who we want to be, like exactly where we want to go. So that's why I say this new era is a completely new era. We're really uprooting our entire tree and planting it into the ground for it to grow with no ceiling. And it's crazy because a lot of people who talk to us about PaliRoots were like, oh, you guys are going to hit a ceiling. It's too niche, da, 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 da. And Hasan and I were like a little bummed out, to be honest. We were like, but why? There's so much opportunity. There's like working with artisans to make thobes. Like, do you know how many girls want thobes? How about like the food? Like, we can bring food here. We can do this. No, I wouldn't even. There's always going to be a ceiling. And that kind of discouraged us. And then Hasan and I one day sat and we're like, yeah, screw that. There's no ceiling. We're done. We're going to keep going. And the moment we really stopped listening to this like fog of like what was maybe being said on the internet and what people were saying about hitting the ceiling, we were like, it's just me, you, and the 400,000 people that love us right now. Like, it's just us, the whole community, and let's just do it. We can't let people down, because there came to a point where Hasan and I were like, do we lay down our tools? Are we done here? Like, do we focus on the app development stuff that we've learned? Like, we were building websites for other brands. We were consulting for other brands. We were like just doing so many other things because PaliRoots wasn't enough for our own personal lives. Besides like our own personal living, Hasan and I like still live together. We still have this small office. We actually haven't exponentially grown because we've been so careful on how much we're spending on PaliRoots that honestly, at this point, Hasan and I are like, it's either this or we're done. It's either this or we're done. Like, we're going to risk everything all. We're going to take whatever we have and just pray that God's got us, and that our community's got us. I believe our community is going to support us here. So with this new shift, we were like, okay, how do we ensure that if we're going to do this and we're going to risk everything, how are we going to ensure that it's going to work? And we're like, okay, we need new designers that are full-time. We need an incredible marketing director that's full-time. We need to make our customer service 10 times better. So we have to hire someone who's doing just DMs. We have to bring on Hasan, who's our incredible videographer, who's our brother. And he's been doing PaliRoots since 2016 and has been doing calls here and there just to kind of like build his business as a videographer. But we never had enough money to be able to like hire him, because we were like, Hasan, we know you're expensive, but like, can you do this shoot for us for like this much? So it was a little bit challenging because running a brand, you really don't have that much of a margin unless you're selling something for $100, $200, $300, which is actually what other brands are doing. And especially us being in this niche group, if a product doesn't do well, you're like, okay, I need to find a way to get rid of this. So with this new direction and this new team, we decided the new era is here. We've started in January, this really big shift, brought on all these amazing designers. One of them is from Barcelona. Her roots are from Argentina. And then we have another designer who is Italian-German, lives in Portugal. And then we have our marketing director who is from the UK. And we have another marketing director, almost like an assistant and a designer from Portugal. So we actually have an entire international team right now. And the reason we decided to hire international is that they see things differently in the fashion world. Because we always like looked into American fashion and we realized that we actually like more of like their style, like the big baggy style, da. And then we started looking for Palestinians that live in Europe or Arabs just to kind of like fill the team. But it was really difficult for us to find. We actually spent almost 3 months in the hiring process. I would meet applicants from 6 in the morning till 5 p.m. every single day for 3 months. And that's why we haven't had a drop since last year, you know? So it's like we really just like said, we're going to just shut everything down, not really make any posts. And we didn't make any posts. People thought we ended at that time because we kind of disappeared. We ended up realizing that us Palestinians, we view Palestine one way. We view it as kufia, watermelon, this. We realized non-Palestinians who were learning about Palestine and doing research on Palestine was different. They were digging deep. They didn't even have to unlearn and relearn. They just had to learn. And some of the stories they would come back to me with, and I did a pitch, like you have to come and pitch me a story, an idea, and a concept. Insane concepts. I'm like, I didn't even know that as a Palestinian. Like, that is a really cool idea. Let's go for it. So I ended up hiring non-Palestinians. But what I do is I bring on Palestinians to consult with them. So whether we're collaborating with a Palestinian artist or a designer or bringing in their stories. So we're bringing stories from people within our community for our designers to design. So that's kind of how I'm keeping things like rooted and allowing other people who are not Palestinian to find home in a Palestinian brand. All of the people that work with us are like, you know, Ana Dami Falastini, Ana Albi Falastini, you know? So it's just so funny how they're learning a little bit of Arabic and they're learning like, yalla, let's go, you know? They're so in love with the culture that they're just excited to go one day travel. They're like, when are we gonna do like a research trip? We wanna go. I'm like, not yet.
Yeah.
We'll give it some time. So building this team was very pivotal, right? But then also from the time with PaliRoots from 2016, being a brand that's like, let's just talk about Palestine and use all these elements that are Palestinian, going into now being a storytelling brand. I think I am more of a storyteller than I am a businesswoman. I love stories. I love infusing design with stories because I believe the smallest details can say the loudest things. So now we're going into making products that's sharing one particular story. By the time this podcast comes out, the collection will be launched, but I'm actually launching a collection inspired by the fishermen of Jisr al-Zarqa from Tantura, Palestine. And people are like, you know, like, what is Tantura? And if you look up Tantura, Tantura had the most devastating massacre. And what I'm doing, I'm like, okay, I'm going to choose Tantura as not the city we talk about, but we're going to find a fisherman from Tantura. And we're going to interview him and we're going to get his story, like his deep, deep story. Like, what does fishing mean to him? What has the sea taught him? And we ended up meeting a fisherman who is like a fourth generation fisherman from Palestine. And one of the stories that he brought up was about like, oh, like the hook is the most important thing. You know, the hook is the most important thing. How do you catch good fish? A good hook. And then I started thinking, I'm like, okay, the sea is a representation of memories. It's a representation of the tides bringing you back to shore, bringing you back home. So the name of the collection is called Even the Sea Knows Our Name. The idea behind it, or the story, is that there is a fisherman who is a forgetful fisherman. There's this mythical creature that is deep in the Mediterranean Sea, and it's known as the most beautiful looking Sultan Ibrahim fish, which is the most popular fish that is caught in Palestine. And he sat into the water to go find this fish. And people are telling him, this doesn't exist. It's just a kid's story. He's like, it's out there. I know it is. So he sets sail and he leaves. And he ends up getting lost in sea. And because he was lost in sea for so long, he started to forget where he came from. And he was like, where do I come from? Da, 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 da. And he's so much of a forgetful fisherman that one of the products that we included in the collection is the hat that has a hook in it, like an actual hook he can take out. And the idea behind that is like, you never lose your hook. You know, you never forget your hook, so it's always in his hat. So we designed the hat to have the hook in there, like a little pocket. And basically, later in the story, he's relating at his boat and it's very hot. And there's a creature, a fish that starts circulating in his book. And then he gets freaked out and looks and sees the fish. He's like, oh my God, I found the fish. But he couldn't do anything about it. He didn't know who to go tell. And during the nighttime, the fish comes to the surface and starts talking to the man. And the man's telling him, like, I can't believe you could talk. Who are you? Da, 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 da. He asks the fish, like, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I came from. And the fish tells him, I will take you to the land of milk and honey. I will take you to a land where your people does A, B, and C. And I created a whole story about this. So it's not a story that exists. It's actually a story that I came up with myself. And I gave this story to my team. I'm like, we're going to talk about a forgetful fisherman and the man that was led back to his homeland by the sea. Because even the sea knows our name. You know, it's like no matter where we go in the world, the sea will always take us home. So that's kind of where the story came from. The shore, the tide, the sea, the creature all took him back home. And he was able to go back home and tell his family and his community that he found the infamous fish. So it's kind of like this relationship where it's like the tree, the sea is such an importance of their livelihood. And it's always a reminder that home is right there. So that's actually the story about the fisherman. So now in terms of like design wise in particular, it's not even just about like making t-shirts and hoodies anymore. We're making like denim Bermuda shorts, vests that are like washed, and we're making hats, and we're making like socks and crazy looking accessories. I can actually show you a sneak peek of the accessory if you want to
Yeah,
see.
I was going to ask you because I think this will air 3-4 weeks, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah,
So
June 19th is the launch. Nobody
is that-
knows yet. So
yeah.
I'll show you the necklace so you could see it. Do you want to see it right now?
Yeah, please.
So this is the first piece. So this is the necklace. So you
Oh,
can
wow.
see like the fish hook, the little like Sultan Ibrahim fish. And then you can see like even this like pearl, like freshwater pearl in there. And it's just like this really cool like statement necklace. So it's kind of like our pieces are becoming more complex. They're becoming more expensive too. So now, you know, the biggest challenge that we're receiving is how do we stay under the pricing that we have right now with PaliRoots and still making PaliRoots accessible? So the first thing I told my team was like, anytime we make something, yes, make complex pieces. Don't let your creativity be limited by the cost of the product. But please make sure you have some products that my community can at least pick up while something launches. It could be something they're used to, like sweatpants, but make the sweatpants really cool. Make like the hoodie or the t-shirt really cool. Just like be mindful on having some stuff that's accessible, because I don't want to boot out everybody else who were with us from the start. So let's
Yeah.
try to still keep things affordable and bring in the really creative pieces if you'd like. So that's kind of like this new changes. And then so Bermuda shorts, button-ups that are washed, and like we have metallic detailing, like now being a full fashion brand and making things very like technical. Our sample development is taking almost 2-3 months, rather than back then it would be like a month to make a sample. Like right now my team is designing for next year. We're already almost 7 months ahead in our schedule. And this is just finally after 5 months of producing. Now we're moving into the next year.
That's amazing. I love the storytelling. I love that you're infusing so much of our culture and everything that you're doing. I mean, what's going to happen is it's going to go from watermelons to now the fish hooks.
We'll combine both.
Yeah, that's amazing. This is brilliant. How do you get the inspiration, the creativity to think about this? I'm assuming it's you on the creative side only, and then
Yeah, most of the stories are coming from me. A lot of it would come through trying to get an interview with the person I'm trying to have as a face of campaign. Also, a little quick side note, we actually have the fisherman that's going to be modeling in this shoe. So we have a whole creative team in Palestine. Actually, the person who's shooting it is someone who I've been working with since 2016 as well. I'm bringing back parts of the people I worked with in the past and being like, hey, you know, like full circle, but we're back into storytelling, and you're a storytelling videographer, and his name is Omri. He started at 17. I hired him for one of my first shoots for Palestine, in Palestine. He actually did the Palestine flag hoodie collection as well. So that was maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I was like, hey, we're ready to get into like the more complex stuff. And he's like a documentary specialist. So I was like, this is the story. He's like, I'm ready for this. They're shooting it next week, inshallah. So bringing in Palestinian talents. Like I'm trying to find more ways of getting more of my community and people in Palestine involved. But you know, the craziest thing is that like we're still experiencing this struggle because apparently the last day for Palestinians to be able to go out to sea and fish is this Friday. That means that we can't shoot content in the sea next week. So we're like, how do we fix this? How do we still be able to capture the story without having the fishermen in the sea? And he was like, we're going to do our best. We're going to, push on and see what we can do. I might just be safe. That's all I need. We're not like a brand that can, go to Spain and just shoot in Spain and use the water. That's not the story. The story is a fisherman, a true fisherman, and document a story. So we're going to take a fisherman, put him in the fit. He's probably going to complain about how baggy it is and like how too streetwear it is. So we're like, Amo, you look cool. So I told him to keep gassing up the Amo when you're at the shoot to let him know he looks really great. And he's gonna look great. They're just used to wearing skinny jeans back home. So, they haven't evolved just yet. I'm not sure where I left off before I spoke about the fishermen.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you're a farmer, my family of farmers as well. Are we going to get a farmer story?
Hey, you're too hard. We do. We have something that's actually going to be the collection right after, but I can't speak too much on it because it's too good of a collection to even like hype it up right now. It's something we've been working on for a very long time. And the person who is designing that collection fully is the Italian designer, Viviana. So we have Viviana and Giulietta. Viviana is the Italian German. So she's actually right now in Italy on her olive land in Italy right now. And she's doing research.
I'm
She
putting
came
my order in right now. Okay. Whenever it comes out.
the place, no order. You do a lot for us. And for you to have been able to dig this deep into our story, honestly, I'm amazed by how incredible this podcast is. I've never been able to have someone get this much story out of me, honestly.
No, thank you. I mean, you're a storyteller, so I think I have an easy job. I ask a question and I just shut up. It's pretty easy. So how do we support you? I mean, I know we can go on your website and purchase things, but how else can we support you?
Well, I think the best way is that if you are a musician, if you are an artist, if you are someone who feels like you could take our message further, let us know. Because this next year is the year of collaborations. And if you have a really good story you want to share, now is the time to pitch it to us because we work a year in advance. And right now we do have one or two collaborations in the works right now with some incredible artists, meaning like musicians, taking their story and their ideas. So if you are an artist, a designer, whatever concept that you want, if you are ready, like just let us know. Don't let us know the concept yet because maybe we have that concept and we don't want to go and launch it. And then you're like, hey, that was my idea. Don't do that to us. Don't do that. If you want to collaborate with us, let's take things very professionally. Let's do contracts. Let's make sure we know exactly what the compensation is. If you're happy with the compensation, if you're happy with the collaboration, because at the end of the day, we never want to do something with anybody who doesn't feel happy. If you don't feel like that's the same rule when hiring someone, it's like if you're not happy with what we can afford, then you don't take the job. We want everyone on the roll to be happy. We want everyone we collaborate with to be happy. If you are interested in collaborating with us, in doing something, and maybe we don't know of you yet, because to be quite honest, Hasan and I are not the one that run the social media. Hasan and I don't even get on social media anymore. We have our own personal pages, but like the last time I posted was almost 2 years ago and Hasan probably 10. So we keep to ourselves here in our office. We stay focused. We put our heads down. We spend as much time as we can with our family, with our parents back in San Diego. So if we don't know of you, just make the introduction. We'd love to have some coffee, have some lunch, dinner, whatever it is together. And most importantly, I think the best way to support is that if you have feedback or if you have something you want to tell us, we're easily accessible. You can talk to us and also buy our stuff.
Sure.
That really helps us out the most. That helps us keep going.
But the message too here is that you all are all in. This is it. You're putting it all on the line now.
I put everything that I do in our side businesses, I put them on the side. I was like, I don't care. I was like, whatever is going to keep the company going, let's just go full in. Because I think Hasan and I were like a little, having a difficult time in the growing stages and trying to learn things about Palestine. That's why I say PaliRoots scaling is the hardest part. And right now is the biggest scale we're going to have in the company, inshallah. I just think the way that we're doing things is going to be really different. We're no longer a t-shirt brand or just a Palestinian brand. We are a brand that our people are going to be proud of. And that's all I really want. I want my people to be very proud of us. That's all I
I'm proud of you. I am 100%. I'm pumped up. I'm so excited about this new
Thank
launch.
you.
So
Thank you. We're
yeah,
very excited too, and we hope that everybody finds a piece of home in the stories that we tell, because I hope it takes you back home. A lot of Palestinians don't have the privilege of even being able to go back home. So this is my attempt of bringing home to you as much as I can. I hope that we do come out with things that are going to bring you closer and closer to home so that one day you have that opportunity to actually experience the sea. You have the ability to experience the olive trees, and you have the experience the people, the markets, the souks. Our people built that and protected that. And we're here to keep preserving that as much as we can.
I appreciate you so much, the work that you and your brother are doing. I don't know if you get enough thank yous, so I want to give a formal thank you on behalf of all Palestinians.
No, no. Thank you to everybody. I mean, thank you to you even for putting me on here and getting our story out. And thank you to everybody who has supported us from day one or from day two, from the 9 years. Like every comment, every like, every engagement, every purchase has pushed us forward and forward. So if you do see a post on PaliRoots, we go through shadow banning, we go through our page being threatened every day. Drop a like, drop a comment. It takes 2 seconds, but it does so much for us. So never swipe on us. At least like it and leave a heart. It could be whatever emoji you want, but it does make a big difference. And I say that not just for PaliRoots, but for every Palestinian doing good work, preserving our culture and educating people in Palestine. Always leave a comment. Always like their stuff. Like that is the most important thing. And that's something we tell our social media manager to do. You see a journalist, anyone in the Palestine space, like drop a comment. Like we have to always fight the algorithm by being active with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just two questions for you. And it's really one question, but given your experience and you said you're about 30 years old, I'm going to break
Yeah.
this question a little bit differently, if that's okay. If you could go back to your younger self, that 15 or 16-year-old, what message would you give yourself?
Mm. I'd have to think about that one. Let me
Okay.
think about it for a little bit.
So I'm going to pivot to the next one, and you may have to think about this too. If you fast forward to the future, what would you tell your 50-year-old self?
Ooh, that's even harder.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go into maybe my past self. I think what I would say isn't anything that I would necessarily say. I would just give her a really big hug, like a
Mm,
hug for a straight 5 minutes, because the importance of like receiving a hug from somebody, and it's really truly there, is scientifically, if you really look it up, a hug from somebody can really calm your nervous system
yeah.
and help you find your peace a lot faster. So like I feel like that's all what we really need is just we really need a really big hug from someone we love. Because I worry about giving her advice because exactly the things that she went through, she meaning I, is the reason I am where I am today. And I'm just grateful for every experience, every challenge, every hardship, every heartbreak. That was all so important. And if I were to tell her to change anything or give her advice, I'm worried I would not be the same person I am today. So just a hug, honestly. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want her to change. She needs to go through that hardship. She needs to go through that for her own good. And then maybe like listen to your parents more when you're younger, you know?
Yeah,
They're
we'll leave
always
that out.
right. They're always right.
How about your 50-year-old self?
50-year-old self. I would say, I hope you spent enough time with your family. Did you spend enough time with mom and dad? Did you spend enough time with your family? I'm someone who is unbelievably obsessed with my work. I love what I do. And sometimes I feel like it takes me away from my family. At times I feel guilt about it, being far away from my mom and my dad. And anytime I feel very far away, or if I don't call my parents every day, which I tend to be really bad at it, I feel really guilty. But it's a tough choice because I love my parents and I love PaliRoots. I just hope that my future self spent more time with my family. And I'm trying to get there, which is really hard.
We'll get
So,
there.
yeah. So, past, it's like spend as much time with your family. And future, it's like, did you spend enough time with your family? Because that's your whole world. That's everything. Like, you don't die with money. You don't die with fame. I don't want none of that. Like, I want to know that I made my family the happiest people on earth. And I made sure that I spent enough time with them. I think that's the most important thing for me is family. And I think at this present, I feel this type of guilt not being able to spend as much time with my family because I spend my mornings and afternoons here and then my nights here. So I spend 3 days, 3 hours of every single day, either going to the gym, calling my mom and dad if I have time, and sometimes I don't even have a break. And it's been like that, honestly, for 9 years. I've just been working this much, just trying to figure out what I want to do. But I'm grateful for that experience. But I feel like the only regret that I have is that it took time away from my family.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
powerful. I have to ask this question on behalf of a father of young daughters, twin daughters. What message do you give them as a Palestinian woman entrepreneur, innovative, brilliant, strong, clearly great work ethic? What message would you give to their generation? I think it's Generation Alpha, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Wow. Oh, wow, it's a big one. I
Yeah.
think the first thing I would say is the most important relationship you'll ever have in your life is your relationship with your parents. That's the
Mm.
most important thing. It's important to tell them that because especially as they get into the years of them like going through high school and being a teenager, just try to nurture that relationship with your parents. And I feel like the reason I am the way I am today is because of my parents. I don't think anything else really matters. It's like focus on your relationship with your parents, not relationship with anybody else. Just right now, it's your mom and your dad. I mean, I'm still 30 and I feel like I need my mom and dad all the time. There's something healing about having them. So when I know of a friend that lost their parents or something, I can't help but like cry. And they say, like, Amina, what is your biggest fear? My biggest fear is anything ever happening to my family. Like, I don't care about anything. So even me, like, I'm getting emotional, like, talking about my family because it really is a big fear that I try to, like, overcome as much as I can. Trying to replace the idea of, like, anything happening to my family, replacing it with gratitude, saying, "Thank you, God, for that my family's alive. Thank you for reminding me that I still have my family." And that's been the only thing that's been keeping me to, like, protect my sanity, especially as my siblings are, like, driving. I'm like, "Look both ways. Do this, do that." Do like, just being really afraid. So I'm just really grateful that I still have all of my family members with me. So alhamdulillah, like it kind of helps ease my heart. But that's what I would say to your twin girls. Like your relationship with your parents is the most important relationship you'll ever have until the day you die. They are the only two that'll love you more than anybody on earth. There's nobody that'll love you more. You don't have to be smart to know that. Like no matter who you marry, no one's gonna love you more than your parents, even your own, even your own partner. That's gonna be your parents.
That's right on. That's an important message for me. I lost my father when I was in high school, and then my mother my first year at college. So
Wow,
totally agree with you. You got to make sure those relationships stay strong and enjoy every moment that you can. So, Amina, thank you so much for your time. This was definitely worth the wait, just so you know.
Sorry.
Sure.
Thank you. I've been going back and forth. I'm like, I have to get back. I feel bad. I've seen your work. I've seen the one recently with Maya, and I'm like, oh, it's so amazing. Like the way you're storytelling, the way that you've done things are just so incredible. You've dug deeper than any podcast I've been on, and I'm just really grateful for this conversation.
Appreciate that so much. That means a lot coming from a successful person like you. So thank you. Until next time, thank you.
Until next time.
Listen, stay tuned, cause it's time for some mood.